for the few people that couldn't make it. Okay. Looks
Hey
like...
guys.
Hey Max.
Hey Max. Hello Max.
All right, recording's on, guys. Thanks everyone for joining us. We've been looking forward to Moonbroch. You know, we've done a few whiskey agency tastings now. I think this is our third one with Igor. But Moonbroch was fun because, you know, we've got Michael here that contributed to that. We've got Jay here that contributed to picking all these casks that we're tasting tonight. And I'm excited to hear the process that you guys went through to work with Igor to get this imported into Canada, and also excited about tasting these. And you know, we've got a lineup of few distilleries that I always look forward to, a few distilleries that we don't see a whole lot of, right? Glen Tochers, you know, they don't make their way into the lineup very often, so that's yeah, it'll be fun to get through these. And I'll pass the mic to you, Jay or Michael, or Igor. I don't know how you guys want to present these, but really look forward to hearing from you guys, and pass the mic.
Cool. So I guess I can give just start with a little breakdown of Moonbroch. So basically started more just as a group of friends that were kind of really into whiskey, and started as a not so serious project and just seemed to keep growing and growing, and then finally got to the point of us kind of looking to pick and release our own bottles. So what we have tonight is actually the first release that we did kind of in collaboration with Igor and the whiskey agency. So we worked with him going through and kind of selecting the casks for tonight. The parent company of Moonbroch is Independent Bottlers Group. So we are based out of Ontario, but distributing out of Alberta. So we've also worked with Igor and Alternative Belgium more recently on a cognac release, and do have a few more bottles that just hit AGLC and should be kind of making their way out to stores in the coming weeks from Tri-Cara, who's a new independent bottler in Scotland, and from Rare Finds.
Yeah, so I guess I'll continue on. I'll introduce myself a little bit. So I think Mike's been with the company a little bit longer than I have. I kind of jumped on afterwards, mostly working with sales, and now that we have some new product coming in, kind of reaching out to more people and trying to get into more retailers. And I am relatively newer to Scotch. I actually have a pretty deep background in sake. That's usually what I drink, and I found, you know, a lot of similarities between the two, and that's how I kind of started drinking with Mike and all the other guys here at Moonbroch. Yeah, super excited to have some of these with you. And I'll put in a link to our website as well if you want to follow along. You'll see all of our current lineup there, and if anyone's interested in some of the new products that Mike was talking about, we actually do have a portfolio we can send to you guys afterwards that has a little bit of information on that cognac and the new Scotch that's coming in.
Awesome, thanks, Jay. I know cognac is one that this group has been kind of reluctantly wanting to get into, but we haven't managed to pull on a split yet. Maybe this is a good opportunity.
I see Igor smiling over there.
Yeah.
He says there's things coming.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll send you the link.
The you guys smelling the liquid?
Yeah. Now that the Tobermory's gone.
Yeah. It's really nice, eh? It's got like a lot of those bitter malty notes.
Banana.
Yeah. How's everything going with you, Igor?
Yeah, everything good. Quite busy too, because I'm trying to, like I said, new projects, and I'm just got couple of new suppliers. Whiskey supplier as a whiskey sponge.
Yeah, I saw those showing up. I was gonna buy a few to split them. That's through you?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And you know, Angus, it's a very old friend of mine, so we kind of know each other forever since he was probably like 18 years old or something like that. And those interesting cognac projects, that's
Mhm.
actually I'm even more excited about it because it's really rare finds. But anyway, like I'm not gonna you know interact too much with your tasting guys. I'm kind of bystander mostly.
Okay, good,
I
good.
just if you're gonna really trash some of the whiskeys, I'm gonna be here. Yes.
Of course. What happened to the dinner for next Thursday, Igor? I was looking forward to that. It got canceled.
I have no idea because looks like Michael didn't get enough seats or whatever. I don't know even.
Oh,
It seems like he projected too many people, and it's not happened. I would actually tried. I tried to say to him that maybe it's a good idea to even to do this for 20-25 people, but looks like it. You know, he has some special agreements with a chef, with a venue, whatever. I have no idea. So anyway, we're gonna drink.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
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 Yeah, I love this type of liquid. Right, it's a really raw liquid. You know, like very kind of bitter, malty cereal with some sweet honey notes in there. Almost herbal. What do you guys think? Brad, Martin?
I think it definitely the citrusy stuff. When I first smelled it, banana, but it's kind of mellowed out now, so that's kind of
Ooh.
gone.
I like a bright lime on the finish, almost like a key lime pie almost.
Yeah, citrus is good. I'm adding that to my notes. Michael J, like so the team at Moonbroch, how did you guys pick these casks specifically? Do you guys all have a little 10 ml sample and you guys try them all together and you decide, you know what, this one, and how many people are in on the Moonbroch team that are picking these casks?
From the initial kind of selection of it, it was just 2 to 3 of us that had kind of worked through it with Igor. So he had the kind of samples brought over from the whiskey agency, and we were able to kind of go through those and make our selections of kind of what we thought would be a good lineup and kind of good representation.
Nice.
And it was a little bit more than 10 mils, so we managed to try at least few drops. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was fun, actually.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear the banana note brought out. I actually have the liquid in front of me now. I added a few drops of water and actually find that kind of hung around a little bit longer on the nose. So it's interesting. It kind of the few drops of water changes it quite a bit.
Okay.
No, and another interesting remark about those 2-3 people that helped me to choose basically they choose Moonbroch bottles because I like them all because they're very different, and to some extent, you know, it's in a good way fairly crazy, and that's my type of people, you know, because if somebody just, you know, only dissecting the whiskey or something like that, it's interesting, but not as much. But if people getting emotional, if people actually likes different types of the whiskey, different distilleries, that kind of becoming interesting. And so that was very much
Great to me.
fun project for me.
Yeah, was there some thought, Michael, that went into the selection here, or you just found 9 casks that you like and you guys decided to bottle them, or were you going for something?
A little bit of both. We were trying to kind of give a good representation of Scotland itself, trying to pick as many different regions, a good mix of peated, sherry, bourbon casks finish, just trying to kind of give equal representation across everything that we wanted to present.
Mhm. Yeah, and this one on the Linkwood, there's got to be like some really refill barrels, not a lot of barrel influence there. Okay.
Really good.
Yeah.
I would say this definitely reminds me, my father-in-law has this bottle of Old Particular Linkwood that I forget if Simon has tried, but
I did try.
I definitely get vibes of that one. And I always feel like my thing with Linkwood is that bit of sourness. I don't love it. Like, I always think it smells better than it tastes, but I agree with the sort of citrus notes and I don't get as much banana, but that kind of malty bread note for sure.
Yeah. I'm moving on to Tamdu here.
And don't forget, guys, first whiskey, it's always like it's a victim of the tasting. It's basically like, or whatever, fallen soldier or something like that. You have to begin with something. But in our opinion, the Linkwood was a very good starting whiskey, because it's definitely getting you kind of, I would say even salivating, because of that bitter sour, just a touch on the finish, and it's a cleanliness of the whiskey.
We need it instead of using your fingers.
I agree 100%, Igor. I think it's a nice start. The Tamdu's like more on the
Oh,
caramel,
wow.
sweet
That's caramel
side.
butter scotch.
Is that what you're saying, Brad? Are you on the Tamdu?
Yeah, caramel butterscotch. It's very sweet
Yeah,
on the nose. On the nose.
Desserts,
The Tamdu was actually one I was personally really excited about, just because it is a bourbon finish, and it's not something that you see every day. You normally see it kind of sherry aged.
Right.
So nice to be able to kind of see a bit more of what the raw spirit may actually be like.
Yeah, like Glengoyne and bourbon and Tamdu and bourbon. There's always
Yeah, I think Igor probably remembers seeing my face the first time I tried it. Just kind of fell in love right away.
Oh, cheers. We'll see it.
This is definitely dessert Sunday nose.
That's impressive for a bourbon cask. Like, you got so many fruity butterscotchy notes in there.
You were just saying we were noticing the caramel and we're in butterscotch over there. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just guys, be gentle with your notes, because it's a favorite Michael's whiskey, so it's his love. So please be gentle.
Getting some real trash bag flavors.
Yeah, some
Like wet dog. No, it's actually quite nice. It's really good. And
Yeah.
I've yet to have a Tamdu that I'm like impressed with, but this one's changed my mind.
Oh, that's amazing to hear.
It reminds me a little bit of some of those Glenelgan bottlings in bourbon casks, where that fruitiness does sort of come through from the distillate. You're not necessarily expecting it with a pure bourbon maturation, but it is very nice.
Yeah, I've had that experience with Glenmoray, so I'm interested in seeing what happens on the next one.
Yeah, but there isn't a ton of bourbon. That's
And
interesting.
is the Glenmorangie in bourbon too?
The Glenmore, we're actually not sure what that was in. We put it in kind of the first grouping. If it is sherry, it may be like a second fill or a bit more down the line because didn't have the. I don't want to ruin it before you guys get into it.
Okay. Smells like honey crullers, that Glenmorangie.
You're on the next one already, Simon?
Well, that just smelled it because
Oh.
we started on Tamdu and now we got like these kind of fruity bourbon aged distillates, and I got
Excited running ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm having trouble keeping up with Simon.
just getting excited. We got 9 whiskeys to get through,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. We have to check the time.
I like the pace, but we should.
It's like a marathon, you got to pick a pace and you just got to stick to it, even though,
The time due is great. Wow.
Dangerous.
It's so nice it's so desserty and sweet on the nose. And
It
then
says
the,
52.9, but there's no way I would have pegged it anywhere close to that. Like that. That's beautiful. That's really nice.
yeah, there's nothing crazy on the proof here, eh? Like 54, a couple 54s, but
But that's high for scotches though, right? I mean, they don't get
is it?
super high for like scotches. You don't really see them over like 57, 58, right?
I mean, you can, it's just a little
Yeah,
less
maybe
common.
the
Yeah,
oddball
well,
one here and there.
I like my scotch in the low 50s. I'm like scotch just turns into a bit of a mess once you go north of 56, 57. But there's exceptions to every rule.
And I like notes about Glenelgan because I agree 100% about bourbon casks Glenelgan, and don't forget also Ben Nevis. You remember it was at some point quite a few Ben Nevises that actually from the bourbon casks, and they were super fruity.
Don't get me talking about Ben Nevis. All right, we ready for Glenmorangie?
yeah, I'm nosing it now. It's
Do you get that honey cruller? Like, it's just a big old donut covered in glaze.
Nothing wrong with your
nothing
Extra.
wrong with a nice donut.
Nothing wrong with an extra glazed donut, Simon. It's fine.
Thanks. Like,
It's less sweet as the Tamdu, I think. More like some field, like hay field notes in there a little bit.
yeah, I get some fruitiness, so I think Michael, your guess of like a second, third fill sherry or something probably makes sense.
Yeah, it's like almost like walking past an orchard out of season. Like there's still some sort of that are kicking around on the ground.
You're talking about orchards, Martin?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually really
Yeah,
like that
orchard.
that glazed donut note. I'm definitely getting that coming through on the nose here.
Good.
If we could just have glazed donut smelling whiskey all the time, we
Would be dangerous.
yeah, we just get them all.
If I could have a glazed donut with my whiskey right there, it wouldn't be so bad.
It's sweetening.
A couple of indie donut makers in Hamilton that do some pretty cool stuff. I'm sure we could make that happen.
Martin, I don't know. You're not talking into the microphone. We can only kind of half hear you.
There's a couple of really good independent donut makers in Hamilton that could probably make some pretty fantastic
We're gonna
whiskey
do
infused
some
donuts.
Scotch donut pairings. I'm down.
I would be down. That would be
I'll write a
sweet.
blog review about that.
Donuts and whiskey. That's a new page you can start, Simon. Never mind Scotch and ponder and talk about it. Just donuts and whiskey.
I've had bacon on them. I've had them with like chunks of raw habanero on them. Like there's
Oh
some
my.
pretty. Yeah. Oh, the habanero, like habanero raspberry in a donut, fantastic.
Oh my God.
You guys getting sexier and sexier, you know.
We can probably easily open a shop called, donuts and whiskey.
We know you're listening, Igor, so we know we have to bring it for you.
Yeah, there's a really nice place just off of Kothra, in
Mississauga.
Mississauga. Yeah, what's that place called? Daddy O's. You guys know about Daddy O's?
Oh man, that place is epic.
Amazing.
My wife used to drive there when we were living in Toronto to get their donuts, like not infrequently.
Now, is that one of those places that doesn't have a menu? You show up and they have what they have, and that's what you get.
Yeah, and they sort of sell out. Like if you go later in the day,
Yeah,
like,
if
they
you,
just
if you
kinda,
don't
like,
get there
run out
after
of
10
stuff.
o'clock in the morning, you're screwed. Yeah.
Yeah, you go at the end of the day, you get those like donuts that are kind of intertwined together, and they're like sage flavored or thyme flavored, like weird herbal lavender. You got to go early in the day to get the good stuff.
Well, I mean, if you're making like a pasta or something, like that would be all right. But
Nobody wants a sage and thyme flavored donut.
Chai, they do chai
Like-
flavored donuts. Those will be there at the end of the day.
chai?
The vegan donuts, yeah, chai, like a chai latte kind of donut.
They do a maple bacon one that's quite good.
Oh,
Yeah. You can't really go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Anything bacon is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cheers, guys.
But yeah, this one I'm definitely getting a lot of apple on the palate. So I think that kind of orchard note on the nose probably carries through a little bit.
That's right. Big apples on the palate.
Mhm.
Malty.
Yeah.
Nice body. Oh, it's got some of those little bitter notes too. It's really nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. You told me this is bourbon casks. I believe you. That's really nice.
Yeah, I don't really get anything from it that makes me think it's sherry.
Mm-hmm. So, like, what do you mean that you don't know, Michael? You know, they just send you samples and they're like, well, we don't really, this is the cask that's like,
So
not-
this one, the only information we had was aged in a barrel. So it was very, very top level. So really could be anything at the end of the day.
Or they just don't want to disclose it, or
Yeah.
You know, guys, unfortunately, it's sometimes by the contract conditions. It depends who sold it and so on. So some of the companies kind of giving you pretty much good information. Some of the companies just refuse to do it, or they also has a kind of contract that, you know, pretty tough for them too. So
the NDAs.
it's not always happening right now, and especially figure it out if it's sherry, for example, which feel it's virtually impossible, because don't forget about re-racking the casks and so on. So sometimes this is information completely and absolutely lost. And imagine a big warehouse of the big company like Edrington or whatever, Diageo. It's a tens of thousands of casks in one warehouse. So lots of human errors too.
There's almost like an icing sugar finish on the end of it too. Which I didn't get until I took a bit of water after.
Glenmoray. Where's my-
That's the one we just had. Glenn Toaster's up text.
Jay, what was from the second point of view? What you got over here in Glenmoray?
I mean, honestly, of the first three, I'd say the Glenmoray is probably my favorite.
Mhm.
I'm glad someone brought up that finish. It's
Makes sense to me.
it's what stands out for me for the Glen Moray. It kind of just lingers on, and
Apple and
I love it. I love that it stays on my palate for that long.
The one we just finished.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what we just had. That one's a sure.
All right, up next we've got
Another
so
last one.
Igor. How do you pronounce Glen Totchers? Am I saying it right, or is there a fancier way of saying it?
Yes, it's fancier way. It's actually Glen Tochers.
Glen Totchers.
Toe, like hairy toes, toe hairs.
Yes,
I love some Glen Tohers.
and you know, Scots, they when they talking, you like right away feel that they're gonna abuse you right now. One way or another, you know, you just don't have a choice. You're gonna be abused. And when they saying,
whiskey score, having fun with friends.
yeah, I really love Glen Tochers. I was like, okay.
As long as not Glenn's toe hair, I think you're okay.
Smells really funky.
Yeah, that's a very different
Like
nose
toe
than the
hairs.
first three.
The toe hairs smell fun.
Yeah, the toe hairs is coming through.
Oh wow, yeah, that's
Bit of
it is very
athlete's
funky.
foot.
I don't know if I should say this smells great. If it's, the toe hair smells wonderful.
It's like a musty oak, like it's a driftwood almost, like a
A little
driftwood,
leathery.
Yeah,
leathery. Yeah,
like that old and sat and aged for forever and ever and ever. And it's only a 12-year. Wow, that's
You know, at first the smell was actually a little pungent, and now it's actually wearing on me. But yeah, that wouldn't be a surprise to Simon. Sometimes I like the funky smells.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like as soon as I smelled this, I was like, oh, Simon's gonna like this one.
Yeah,
It is that kind of,
leathery.
it's not like the Springbank funk, it's that kind of like old, I don't even know what I would call it, kind of dusty funk.
Yeah, it's
it's
musty.
almost that that orange that sit at the bottom of your lunch bag for a long time you forgot about.
Yeah, some potpourri, like a potpourri type of that type of.
It does have that sort of like if you were to walk in to imagine an old like bar saloon, you know, like I think of like going to the Wheat Sheaf in Toronto, like really old bar, oldest bar in Toronto, and it has that like real old kind of musty smell of a place like that.
The booze is sunk right into the wood, you're not getting it out ever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like that smell. I haven't even tried it, but the pad that nose on it's really nice.
Smells great. Smells good. The old musty wood.
Cheers, guys.
Old musty toe hairs. The Palatine hairs too.
Oh. Yeah, it comes through, and it's
Yeah, they're all good.
oaky and like
I'm gonna dislike it.
roomy.
A lot of sherry on that one.
Yes, sure we can.
A lot of sherry on that. This one because the sherry for me always almost comes like a salty briny sort of.
Let's hear from someone else. Max, what are you last for? What's the standout for you?
The Glen Moray was my my top one, I would say, but the Glen, I'm afraid to say it, to say the name, but the last one is interesting. It might become my favorite. It's
You can say it, Max. It's okay. We don't mind.
no, it's very interesting. It's like a bouncy ball. Like I get very different notes. I get ginger, I get salt.
Oh, ginger's good.
Yeah. Like this one is definitely something that you can play with for a while, and it will give you different notes.
That's right.
Yeah,
You're
kind of
probably-
change
you're probably-
each sip that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I had 3
definitely
sips, and everyone was different.
Yeah, there's a complexity to it for sure.
Mm. Some medicinal notes too now. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that especially in the finish, I found there was quite a few medicinal notes hanging around.
There's a bit of cinnamon almost on the end too.
Yeah.
Kyle, are you tasting these? What do you think about the last 4?
Actually, my top right now, actually, now that anyone's mentioned, I actually like the Linkwood a lot.
Yeah, there you go.
It's I mean, kind of have a little rating system here, and that one there is still staying number 1 for me. It might just be also because, my palate wasn't, it was pretty fresh, so I'm sure that maybe played a bit of a factor. But so far, I mean, I'll probably review it again. Linkwood's on the top of my list. Actually, this one just now that we had, one note that I actually had was almost like on the palate was almost like it's more of a nose, but like you would call it, but it kind of like a perfume taste. And not that I would know what it tastes like, but you know what perfume smells like, and it kind of tasted almost kind of like that. It's hard to explain, but it's kind of what I got on this last one.
Yeah.
Kind of like if someone was wearing too much and you could like
Yeah,
taste it.
Yeah, like when when you're in high school and people are like spraying that Axe in the hallway and you walk through it and you basically ingest a bunch.
The kind of
That's what it
fog
was.
that's left behind by it.
Exactly, yeah, that's what it tastes like.
Yeah, no, I
Axe
remember
infused toe hair.
the last whiskey agency we did, or maybe it was the first one we did. There was a young Braval, and it actually kind of reminds me of this. Like it had those similar kind of potpourri, old orange, funkier type of notes to it. Reminds me a lot of this.
It's actually gets very interesting because when you have a Glentochers in a bourbon cask, you have a pretty clean, pure spirit, very nice, very fruity. But if you have Glentochers in a sherry cask, you have that funky, pretty much unpredictable results. But we like it because it's like it stands out from the crowd, definitely, and it's kind of fun to try something like that. So it's always a little bit risky to put something like that particular Glentochers to the public, but why not? If we like it, maybe somebody else gonna like it.
Yeah, well, in the tasting, it love it or hate it, it's a fun one to have in the tasting. It's a standout, right?
Absolutely.
So that was a really fun halfway point. Craig Alachi,
I really like that.
The toe hair?
Yeah. Tasty toe hair. I'm a fan of the toe hair.
Yeah, no, Kyle, I'm with you. Linkwood is probably my favorite so far. Like, they're all really close together and all delicious in their own right. But if I have to get a bottle of one of the last 4, I think it'd be the Linkwood.
This one is Craig Alachi.
Craig Alachi?
So far, for me and Aaron, we actually are unanimous so far in our ranking. Our favorite so far is the Moonbroch Tandu.
Nice.
Yeah.
The dessert one.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's amazing, and I'd love to like get a big bottle of that one. And then for number 2, we put the Glenmore that was aged in a barrel, as opposed to the other whiskeys that were not aged in barrels. And then the sherry butt is our number 3, and the least favorite I think so far is the first one, which is the Linkwood. So I think Simon is saying his favorite is the Linkwood, but for us, we really like this Handu.
There you go.
This one that we're on right now,
That's okay. I like that. You're allowed to disagree with Simon. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, he likes rye that tastes like pine sol, so you can't always go by his ratings.
Right.
Oh, it's not a bloodline.
I have to admit, I was a fan of that one as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Carrots.
Yeah, wet carrots.
Wet carrots on the Craig Galaki?
No.
Bloodline gin that was trying to be a rye.
A different one.
That one.
I had a hard time getting your wet carrots. It's
No,
not a
not
big
the Craig.
nose. I'm not getting a big nose here on this one.
There's no wet carrots on the Craig Alley.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot brighter than the last couple, though.
Yeah, I would agree. It's pretty subtle on the nose.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
Let's taste it.
Looks like some faint sweet fruit and stuff.
Like a stone fruit, I think, like a darker.
It's really bready. Tastes like Christmas bread, or like like that dense, moist bread, like banana bread, but without the banana.
Like a pound.
They're just bread.
But like that specific type of bread, you know what I mean?
Like something like a challah or something, or
Like, they specifically come in those like little mini loaves, right?
Is that
And
the
they're like,
panettone bread you're talking about?
they're always like wet, like they're kind of wet kind of bread. What are you saying, Kyle?
No, you're saying Christmas bread. Is that panettone? You know, the stuff they always sell at Christmas in the store. It's like that.
oh, it's in a box and it's wrapped in the
Yeah.
wax or whatever it
That's
is.
right. Yeah. And sometimes it got like those green and red little jelly things in it.
Oh, fruitcake.
No, that's just old bread.
Not a fan of fruitcake. I don't know why people like it. Sweet on it. Really?
Yep.
Oh, yep.
I get more classic sherry notes on this one. Like I found actually the finish on the last one quite bitter, whereas I feel like this one, it is more of that kind of classic sherry sweetness with just a little bit of that bitterness.
Oh, Craig Alley 13.
And this one's higher too.
I just got a Craig Alley 13. El Cedillo had one for $80. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet.
Oh, you bought that? I like
Yeah.
I like Craig Galaki 13. I think for the price and for the availability, I think it's probably one of the better releases out there.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a big fan of Craig Gallagher myself, but you see, I'm not really often getting Craig Gallagher from the sherry casks. And Colin, it's very good comment of yours, because it's actually we don't know exactly what types of sherry. So the Glentochers can be, for example, in some kind of I guess not so sweet sherry, which is
like Fino or something.
Fino, maybe yes, maybe not, but maybe it's something really weird like Amontillado or or even Manzanilla, which is I suspect it's Manzanilla actually, because Manzanilla have very sweet beginning but pretty bitter finish.
For sure.
As for example, as opposed to Craig Gallagher, which is probably PX.
Yeah.
So it's quite standard quite straightforward whiskey cask, which is good too.
I tend to get a lot of kind of like really dark raisin notes from Antialdo finishes, and so I wonder, yeah, manzanilla is a good idea.
Yeah.
I just added a couple drops of water to this, and I think if I didn't know what it was, I would. It's similar to some manzanilla casks that I've had before, like a Buna Manza or other stuff. It's like,
Oh yeah,
To be
Buna
fair,
Man.
we started the night off with a manzanilla cask, so
Oh, so it's nice and fresh.
Mm.
yeah.
there's no like smoky or peat that it would be in a Buna, so I wouldn't.
No.
But it smells similar on the nose.
But also, you see, guys, even with when we got already what we got 4 whiskeys, right?
We're on number 6. now, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That one's sweeter, I think.
5 now.
5, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
You see that one of the reasons why you can see we're trying to get as much variety as we can because it's a fun.
Mhm.
Also, obviously, business-wise, it's pretty smart because each and every bottle gonna find their followers. But for us, for the whiskey kind of lovers, whiskey drinkers, it's always fun to have something different. Even if you put a full release of the Moonbroch on your shelf and open all the bottles, you can every day experience with something different, you know?
Mhm.
That was one of the ideas also. I hope we succeeded.
I like this one.
Yeah. Five whiskeys, 5 completely different flavor profiles.
I haven't been taking notes about what one's my favorite.
And I wouldn't be unhappy with any of them on my shelf.
Not big on this last one, but the other 4, yeah, I'm on board with that.
I mean, I think this one is just more straightforward. Like, I think this would be a very safe choice to like give to somebody who's a little newer in the whiskey world.
Yeah, I agree.
It's funny you said that. It's actually a bottle I've brought out to a few dinners and stuff like that where I didn't know fully who the crowd was going to be. Because yeah, you kind of just have that feeling you can make everybody happy with it.
Oh, crowd pleaser.
That's what the Glenlivet 12's for.
You're
That's for the
not,
people
you're
who
not
don't
gonna
like.
make me happy with the Glenlivet 12.
There's a place for Glenlivet 12. If you just want to fill up your glass.
At the bottom of
That's right. I was going to say in a
Coke.
glass full of club soda. That's
At the
the
bottom
place
of a
for
can
it.
of Coke, yeah.
Not Coke. Come on.
Or ginger ale, all right. Or a whack of bitters and some sugar.
I'm on the blended malt now, just nosing it. Do we know what's in this one, Michael or Igor? It's got like a little smoky little hint to it, like
Blended 19-year aged in sherry.
and it's got like really sweet like raisins.
Yeah, I get a real.
This smells like a Oloroso or like a big heavy sherry cask, but then it's got like a little smoky. I don't know. You guys don't know the blend?
Grapefruit. Any grapefruit? I get grapefruit. Yeah.
So we don't know the exact makeup of it, what all the parts are. Igor may be able to elaborate a bit more on what I'm saying. But we do know that there's some, so 19 obviously being the youngest that was used in the blend. There is some whiskeys from the 60s and 70s in there from sherry casks that were discovered and used as the main parts of that blend.
And smokiness, definitely you have a smokiness, but as we know, again, that particular blend coming from the Edrington portfolio, at least some of the whiskeys. So considering that it's from Edrington, so we can have, for example, Highland Park over here. And I actually, not only me, but all the guys suspect that that faint smokiness that you have, it might go in from the Highland Park.
That's nice. I could see this being like a heavy-handed Oloroso Highland Park.
I mean,
And
it's also, it's one of
yeah.
those things with the like really old stock when you find it too. I mean, they used to just lightly peat all sorts of whiskey and then they just kind of stopped doing it, you know, 20, 30 years ago, as people became a little more differentiated after the bust in the 1980s.
Absolutely right, Colin. Absolutely right. So it's it can be lots of surprises, but like I said, I tend to kind of go with the Highland Park, but it might be, for example, some Tamdo from the past, you know, which used the you know, lightly peated kind of, you know, base. So, you know, it's a basically enigmatic blends, and but mind you, I'm trying to always to find those blends, because just because nobody knows what's inside, and you cannot sell as a brand, they're usually very well priced and they extremely good quality. First time I can say right now tonight that it's for me, it's no doubt, it's old whiskeys inside, and those whiskeys very high quality.
Jamie, we're on the 19-year blend here. Just joined us. If you want to start where we are. Cheers.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah, a lot of oaky notes I'm getting. The oakiest one out of the bunch for sure.
No, that's another point about older whiskeys in a blend, because I don't think so 19 years old can be oaky so much. I assume it's quite a few ingredients over here from the, like, maybe 35, 40 years old or something like that, even.
I almost get, it's got a little bit of that flavor that you get from some of like the worm tub condenser people. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if there was a little Mortlock hiding in here somewhere. But yeah, it's definitely enigmatic is a good word for it.
Yeah, but you know, everybody perfectly aware of the prices of the whiskeys right now. Imagine you're gonna get like 35 years old Mortlock. How much is gonna cost? Or God forbid it's gonna be Highland Park 35 years old. It's probably gonna be half of your kidney. And so, you know, when you get in blends like this, I'm just enjoying that it does exist. It's still left, you know, something from the old glory. And for me, that's kind of important, because when you start drinking whiskey like 25, 30 years ago, and you just gulping Macallan for Nowadays price like $10,000, or you drinking Highland Park 18 years old, which was my go-to whiskey, you know, absolutely, because it was cheap and it was amazing. And you know, slowly you kind of begin to understand that, first of all, the profile, the taste profile changed. Because don't forget, we keep forgetting about very important stuff when we asking actually ourselves or somebody, why whiskey changed so much? Why whiskey taste over the years changed so much? Why it's newer bottles a little bit different from the older bottles? Don't forget about people. we keep forgetting that it was used to be people work at the distilleries, not computers, you know. But those people are gone right now. They retired or they passed away or something like that, you know. So it's absolutely different people making whiskey right now. And, you know, and sometimes I really like to remind myself what the whiskeys used to be 25 years ago, for example. And that particular blend, it's actually, for me, it's very good reminder of those, you know, kind of former glories or something like that, you know. I don't know even how to say that properly. And it might be Mortlach over here. It might be some really kind of interesting sherry Tamdo that used to have like, you know, peated barley. Or it can be Macallan, or it can be like whatever. And, but what is interesting for me personally, I don't care. Because I don't want to even focus on the names or something like that. I want to focus on my glass and what I'm drinking. And that's one of the examples that you can get for the absolutely normal, decent money. Actually very good whiskey and very old school. Okay, that's my long rant about that stuff because I really love it.
You're welcome to rant anytime, Igor.
All right, so this next one just smells like bacon.
Yeah. Now we get to start speculating. Yeah, that's big bacon, eh?
Okay, so you got already to the peated category?
Yeah.
We're just sniffing the Secret Islay, looks like.
Port Barrique.
Yep. That was a huge surprise for us when we tried it. Actually, I'm telling you, I'm not a fan of the port casks.
You've always said that. You've said that a few times.
Yes, but I'm not even fan of the, like, you know, any kind of weird finishes like wine finishing or port or Madeira or whatever. I still prefer bourbon or sherry, but I'm always willing to try something. And sometimes you get an interesting kind of, in a pile of shit, you get a jewel.
Yeah, and this definitely seems to be a jewel when it comes to Ruby Port. It worked really well with the peat.
This smells amazing.
So
the in there too.
The big touch point for me, Simon literally just had some of this, I think, but with this bottle of Ben Nevis that's 4 years old, that's like heavily peated and sherried, that was bottled back in 2019 from.
We get a lot of hickory.
Yeah, and I basically describe it to people as liquid hickory sticks, and you definitely get that sense from this. It's a little bit sweeter with the port than the Ben Nevis was with the sherry, but it's very tasty. It definitely brings back some memories of that one.
No, very good comparison.
Michael was literally kind of vibrating when he smelled this whiskey. It was kind of very interesting to see.
Yeah, and then we got into the debate trying to narrow down what we thought it was and what our suspicions were.
Yeah.
I got super impatient out of the right away and didn't even get it into a glass before I started nosing it, and was almost convinced at that point it was Lagavulin, and then 100% changed my mind as soon as I got it in the glass.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, I know Lagavulin does do port finishes. I think their fest release from, I forget when, 2021 or something, was a port pipe. So it's possible.
Cheers.
Really like this one.
Is anybody putting a BSW order together?
This one is good.
I was going to say I would definitely get a bottle of this.
I think I need
the
this
first
bottle,
one
yeah.
where I'm like 100%. We'll get a bottle of this.
Yeah, I think I need this one.
Jay's gonna hook us up. We'll put an order together at the end of at the end of the tasting. But
Yeah, definitely. Mike and Jay can help you with that.
This is beautiful.
Okay. And we actually have some doubts, but mostly because my stubbornness with with port casks, you know. But apparently it's good. Jay, sorry, you want to say something?
No, I was just gonna say this is actually like of our initial lineup. This was the standout for me and some of my friends too. Like a lot of my friends tried some of this with me, and they bought out a lot of bottles of that Secret Islay as well.
I buy that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a ton of this left. Like it's so clean. It's such a clean peat. You know, you can rule out half the distilleries on Isla right away.
Well,
I don't know.
the nice thing,
it's pretty good. Like Lagavulin clean to me, right? Like it doesn't have any of those raunchier notes. It's just that salty, that peat, and that's kind of what I get here. And it's really.
I don't ever get that meaty bacon from Lag though. Like that's more of an Ardbeg
Okay,
profile,
but like you know,
but it lacks the smoke and that charcoal that Ardbeg
some
typically
Port
has.
Barrique on it. Hey, I would actually probably go Port Charlotte here, if anything.
So I was actually just thinking as we were talking about it with that like kind of lack of medicinal quality to it, that Port Charlotte was a good option.
But do they?
I think Kilhaman's also possible. Like anything on kind of the north shore of the island in general. I mean, I know they do some port pipes as well.
Kilhoman's a good. They do all sorts of crazy finishes, Kilhoman.
I think this goes back to what Igor just said in his little rant, the embodiment of whiskey. Who really gives a shit who makes it as long as you're enjoying what's in the glass?
Here we go.
Right?
Excellent.
You know, there's a mystery here. We got to get to the.
No. But it's a good stuff. It's a good stuff to try to figure it out because that's what actually.
That's a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fun, and it's anyway. We're not gonna get it because I don't know. Sincerely, I have no idea. Because even if you're gonna try to torture me, I still don't know. You know, so but that
cool actually. You just don't know what you got. You just bottle it and people love it.
Yeah, but you see, it's a only coming to the point when it's actually, do you like this whiskey or you don't? You know, because you know we kind of coming to the point that you can see all the crazy bottlings with the kind of crazy labels and so on. We have crazy marketing campaigns and again so on. But sometimes you just begin to understand that all of this stuff happening just because they selling. I mean, somebody's selling, not a great whiskey. And for us, it's another interest and fun to get unknown whiskey. More than that, for example, in this case, it's actually a finish that I'm not really a big fan of, and suddenly try it and to say to yourself, like, holy fucking mother of God, sorry for my French, it's so good, right? And I love those surprises, you know, and everybody around me, everybody in Moonbroch, I love those surprises because, you know, you just getting absolutely just a tasty stuff. Round number 2.
I'm right there with you, Igor.
No, I just remember how Mike, when he tried this whiskey, how, like I said, he's almost like vibrating and saying, my God, I would like to have this whiskey like as a regular drink.
Yeah.
Because
I think we all do.
And trust me, it might. I don't think it's gonna be Kilchoman. I don't think, because Kilchoman not really selling casks to independents. They doing a lot of finishes, that's for sure. But even if they selling casks to some particular address, they still trying to keep their design and their label.
Yeah, it's much more of a direct private sale.
Yes. So to some extent, it might be eliminate Kilchoman, but you're absolutely right, because it's a lot of Kilchoman qualities over here. One thing that probably kind of getting me also doubtful about the Kilchoman, it's probably the body. The body not too heavy. It seems to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But Kilchoman, it's a monstrous whiskey. You know, it's a very heavy body. So, but again, it's my own taste, my own impressions. Maybe I'm wrong.
I've never seen an indie Kilchoman either.
Yeah, it's that's one like statistically, it's never happened.
I mean, they pride themselves on being like a small sort of estate distiller, right? So that's
Yeah.
So seeing IBs from a small, you know, that or relatively, I guess, small distiller like them, I think would be probably not really up their alley because they have such low yield.
Yeah, it's really small. I've been in. You guys maybe been in Kilchoman. I don't know, but I've been in Kilchoman. It looks like a farm, absolutely. You know, it doesn't look like a distillery.
And I mean, their whiskey. I mean, at least the ones that I've tried are fantastic. But
Yeah,
they're not very common.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful sort of area and hike for anybody who goes the area around the distillery.
Absolutely right. Yeah, it's a real kind of
I'm
island.
gonna go to Scotland. I think a Scotch and Ponder trip to Scotland is warranted.
I'm going in May. Yeah.
I was gonna say, if we all went to Isla at the same time, it would like just like be somewhat disastrous. Like their infrastructure is just not such that they could even handle like 20 or 30 of us just hanging out very easily.
Can we all maybe set a date and test that?
Yeah. Like the festival is like one thing, but like especially if you go in the off season, it's just like, you know, so sleepy.
I think they might like us. No. Anyway, if that's Lagavulin should put that in a bottle and call it Offerman Bacon or something. I don't know.
Or put their own name on it. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I think their festival release last year was a port finish. I haven't tried it, but they do it sometimes, rarely.
Yeah, I know in the last, you're correct, the last two, maybe 3 years, there has been a port finish in there. But I almost, at the end, leaned a bit more Lafroig. It's got some of the delicate qualities that remind me of the older vintage Lafroigs.
But I get no iodine though. That's
Yeah, it's not medicinal enough, I think, for me. I can't do it.
Just like it doesn't have the charcoaly sort of briquette quality of an Ardbeg either.
But
the bacon absolutely is
like a baconed Lagavulin 16 or something. I don't know, or it's not that really briny hit of Lafroig.
It's not light enough to be a Bowmore. Could be a Kalila.
Yeah, I was gonna say Bowmore is just like off the table.
No, it's not.
On the nose is Lagavulin, but I don't think on the palate.
Yeah, I'm sticking to my guns as Port Charlotte on this.
Yeah, if I had to guess, that would be mine too.
Like a Bruichladdich Port Charlotte sort of.
Yeah, they've done it's rare, but they've done a few IBs, and so you know, I don't know why they would want to throw this cask out as a secret cask.
I mean, it's a fantastic pour, any way you look at it.
Unfortunately, guys, it's really tough right now with market, especially anybody that belongs to the big corps, which is majority of our distilleries. Actually, unfortunately, belongs to the big companies. They absolutely don't want to call the name, which is really weird. Why you can give the right to say Lagavulin if you can give the right to say Kaulila? Because almost every indie bottling of Kaulila, it's Kaulila actually. But if God forbid it's Lagavulin or Lafroig, no way, or Bowmore.
It's because Lagavulin is prestigious and Kalila was classically blend fodder.
Yeah, but
Lag
you
doesn't even
know-
grow their own barley.
yeah, true.
I
but
like lag, but it's
Again
funny
and
how-
again.
It's perceptions of prestige. It's not necessarily that they have the best whiskey. It's just, you know, it's like Macallan. They're a big name. They've got name recognition, and they don't want to risk anything that will tarnish the name
Yeah.
recognition.
Big names with a lot of shitty whiskeys, unfortunately.
Well, this is it. Like, lift your rivals up, make them compete, so it makes you do better.
Yeah,
Right?
but
No,
I think
Everybody
it's a,
wins.
yeah.
some distilleries do that. They don't. All of them.
I think it's a weird work of the marketing departments, you know. So uh, sincerely, I never will understand it. But like I said already before, at the end of the day, who cares? You know, if they want to do something like that and actually sell casks like this to the indie bottlers, I will put the distillery name on that bottle for sure because it's a glory for the distillery. You know, so
it's not fantastic. Why would you not want to advertise it as your own?
exactly my point. But you know, it's a weird world, you know. So it's kind of sometimes it's like you know, those guys they remind me of some kind of aliens, you know, because they're not living in the real world. They're not humans, I guess. So they don't understand what actually here on the on the ground we have or something like that. I don't know, like whatever.
How does this how does it compare, Igor, with the other whiskey agency, Secret Islay, that's like from the exact same year? Because I had that one as well, and it's actually the same proof. It's off by 0.1%.
Yeah, I can
I thought it
tell
was
you
very
that.
different. I thought it was
I
very
can-
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I thought the other one was a Bowmore, but
Okay, guys. Again,
Or-
I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly, but it's or sister casks or it's even the same cask. I'm not sure exactly.
interesting.
Yeah, because it was offered kind of in a kind of very interesting way, you know, because okay, we have a 120 bottles or 100 whatever 30 bottles of that particular stuff, but it's going to be very good if you're going to divide it half and half. I was like, okay, we can, but is it any reason behind it? But I was not offered any explanation.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do a side by side with the two.
Yeah, try exactly. It's even more fun.
My notes are very different from one to the next, so we'll have to see.
No, Simon, it's you lucky guy. You actually instead of one good Islay, you got two, so it's perfect, you know.
The Ardmore smells like stinky feet. Sweet stinky feet. Where's my green apple, Igor? I thought you wouldn't bottle any Ardmore that didn't have green apple.
Too young for green apple.
Oh, okay.
And stinky feet, it's actually pretty good expression, but also, as always, has a lot of followers.
Yeah.
As much as it sounds strange.
Ardmore.
Stinky feet and toe hairs tonight.
I was gonna say, I will say this is definitely not my favorite Ardmore that I've ever tried. Maybe it is the stinky feet. I agree. I kind of get that. I mean, it's one of those things where like once you hear it, you can't get it out of your head. But
Who said that?
Yes.
Sound is nicer than a nose, for sure.
Yeah, this nose has got not much. It's like a stink.
yeah, the word you're looking for is stinky feet.
It's
but the taste comes through way differently.
Yeah, the palate's nice. It doesn't
Yeah.
reflect on the nose, that's for sure.
It's so hard to follow up after that Secret Islay. Like this is fine. It's salty and it's nice, but
yeah,
that's such a hard act to follow.
Yeah, like
It's a nice pork.
Nope.
Sure, absolutely.
after having the other one, like just no.
But it's not the other one.
You should guys actually try a little bit with the water.
Okay.
That particular one. Just for fun.
This one right now, Igor?
Yeah.
Ardmore.
A little bit Ardmore, yes. It's not a bad idea for the young non-traditional peated whiskeys actually to be watered down, because it's usually giving you a little bit different results. Anyway, no guarantees. So, but I generally like Ardmore. So, and Simon, listen, you're talking about those smoky apples.
Yeah, remember we had the 21-year Ardmore.
Yes, but
That
it's
was-
usually coming when it's actually around 20 years, or at least 18.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one from the last tasting was really, really good.
Yeah.
With a little bit of water, there's a lot of sweet icing sugar on it.
Oh, I wasn't gonna say anything, but it got way sweeter when I added the water.
Yeah. Like a lot of like that sweet icing sugar.
Look better with the water. Igor, I agree.
Yeah.
Now it's a bacon on a donut.
You just mix the two together, do our own blend, and
But that's again, it's the beauty of experiments, you know. So sometimes you have some of notes. You know what I'm actually doing sometimes when I'm trying to kind of choose something. I'm going to extreme. I'm I'm getting regular portion of the whiskey, and after that I begin to dilute this whiskey, like let's say approximately like by whatever 5 or 2-3% at the time, sometimes 5. So I'm going sometimes from the 55 ABV up to 35 ABV. Usually, actually, it's my limit. What I found kind of for myself, because it seems to me like around 35, maybe 34, maybe 36. I'm not sure because I don't have like precise equipment or something like that. But it seems to me that whiskey begin to fall apart for me. But some people saying you can reduce even more. For me, it's like kind of a little bit like it's a maximum of reduction. But why I'm saying that, because along the way, when you're actually experimenting with that, you have all kinds of twists and turns from the same glass, and it's kind of fun. So if you're willing to try this at some point, I'm strongly suggesting this, just for your own experiments. Because like I said,
I definitely did that sort of earlier in my whiskey journey, the whole like dilute it like way down to like 20% or whatever and see what happens. And it does bring out some different, or maybe emphasizes some different flavors, but like it just gets so watery. It doesn't taste like you're drinking whiskey anymore. So I think unless you're trying to extract every possible underlying subtle tasting note, it doesn't really do much for the taste. But I think if you were professionally reviewing something, it might be an interesting exercise.
Yeah. And especially, you know, if you have a tough choice or not so much time or something like that, just to choose which whiskey you going to bottle, which is sometimes pretty tough decision. I'm trying, especially if it's a kind of questionable for me, I'm trying to do that for the sake of the kind of to get to the to the core, to get to the bottom, you know, somehow. Because at those low ABVs, it's sometimes showing you, is it really good spirit or not really good spirit? Because it's already extreme. But I'm not saying that you're supposed to do it on a regular basis, something like that. It just try it for fun. You probably see what I'm talking about. But for me, it's a kind of important because, like I said, when you're choosing something.
That Lachey smells so nice. Scott, we haven't heard from Scott. Are you tasting these with us, Scott? What's your verdict on the last 8?
I'm right here with you. I'm probably going to be the outlier here. I've got the blended malt as my highest rated so far.
Oh, you're with Igor.
And for the Secret Islay, I had it pegged as a Lafroig.
Okay.
So I'm with Michael, but everybody seems to disagree. But I thought it might have been a Lafroig. But so far, the blended malt's got the top. It's pretty close though.
I don't think you're alone. I really like the blended malt as well.
Got some high hopes for this last one, though.
This Lachey smells really nice.
It's so like salty and oaky and rich, you know.
Yeah, this is
I had to double check the
classic
age.
Lachey. It's so good.
I had to double check the age because I thought, okay, this is probably old. And then I look and it's just kind of your regular 13. I was kind of expecting to see like a 17, 18, 19 on there.
I can say just a good one.
But it's just, you know, like the peated stuff, when the oak really comes through like that and the peat takes more of a background, you know, you kind of expect it to be older.
Yeah, it was actually one of those things at that lineup that kind of has also surprised us because by the nose it's definitely older, and it's quite interesting, you know. So it was not a difficult choice actually, because first of all, as you all know, Lachey, it's very reliable whiskey. For the peat lovers, it's a kind of, you know, it's pretty good choice. But also it's some of the good casks. If we have a good cask of Lachey, it's just a pure magic.
Cheers.
It's fantastic. I love it. On the
It tastes old too. It's light. I don't know if it's because it's the last whiskey, but it's
it could be the last whiskey. You've had 9.
yeah, I just
I
feel
mean,
like
we've all had 9.
I could take a shot of this. Like
This on the end. It's a good closer for sure. Good choice.
I mean, if you could get this in a 13-year-old versus what you're thinking at 17 or 21 or something, and it's still good, saves you a few dollars. I mean,
I love the silence. I really enjoy when like silence like this, you know, because it looks like everybody enjoying, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's really tasty.
that is a really nice whiskey.
But also don't forget, look like we put the whiskeys, right? We put 3 peated whiskeys, but look how different they are.
Yeah.
Like completely different, you know.
Yeah.
And it, okay, even if you're fan of the peated whiskey, you probably choose the favorite one. You probably, or that, or it's giving you actually the pretty much full spectrum of the possible type of peats that actually, or peated barley, or peated whiskey, whatever you want to say, that exist in the market.
Yeah, like what Michael said at the beginning of the tasting of the kind of rough vision of trying to span the flavors of Scotland. I don't know, there's not a whole lot missing with this lineup. Like, you know, you've got the sweeter stuff, you've got the sherried stuff, you've got the maltier ones, you've got the you know, porch peat, you've got the island peat. The Lacheg is like, it's got a lot of your Isla type of peat bourbon refill notes, you know, even though it's not quite on Isla. Yeah, this is a great. You've got that funkier kind of curveball with the Glen toe hairs. This was a great tasting, actually. Like just in terms of the whiskeys that you guys put together, it was really, really fun to do as a tasting.
Oh, thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing, guys. This is fantastic.
I agree. Very, very good. Delicious.
Yeah, I think we have to raise the glasses for Michael and Jay, because those guys just beginning, but I know that it's gonna be very interesting next releases, and I know we're gonna try as much as we can. We have lots of interesting collaborations in mind, and you know, and I trust those guys with their own choices. So it's a win-win situation. The more the merrier, you know, especially if it's a good ones.
Yeah, definitely.
So cheers.
Cheers. Dumb question, if you don't mind. Might be it's a hot topic in the whiskey groups that we're in. Distribution in Ontario. Have you tried? Will you try? Too difficult? Can you comment on that at all?
It's a really, really tough one. So I know Igor's looked into it in the past. I've spent a bit of time kind of doing my research on it. And for spirits, the LCBO almost makes it next to impossible for an independent to play here. With the amount of, I guess, their internal profits and taxes that they want to put on the product, it almost outprices stuff from the market right away when you look at importing kind of smaller batches.
Yeah, and I've actually
looked at that too. I've actually got a letter drafted to my MPP and to Doug Ford that I'm like just about ready to send. And when I'm happy with it, probably later this week, I'll share it to you guys. I think it would be really fun for us to like blast our MPPs with letters and just bring this to their attention and see if it generates something.
And to try.
I appreciate your candor, and I just wanted to throw it out there and hear about your difficulties.
Well,
we know it's hard.
It's so hard to get SKUs accepted at the LCBO, you know. And even when I was at Starlight recently for the Starlight tasting we've got coming up, they've got 2 SKUs they're trying to get into the LCBO, and it's tough, you know, and the agents are basically doing it, you know, they're not making any money on this stuff for the LCBO, right? Like all the agents want to go through Alberta because they actually make money when they sell stuff through Alberta. Agents trying to sell stuff through the LCBO is a nightmare. And you just want to get one solid SKU in there that's mass produced, and that's all you can do, right? It's like Michael said, forget about the small batch stuff. That's not going to make its way there.
It's crazy. It's just crazy. Like And they could do it if they wanted to, but they choose not to. It's
The
sad.
thing.
But
Right.
guys, I mean, again, think of like the LCBO's business, and then think about the percentage of that business that is whiskey, and then think about the percentage of this business that is single malt whiskey that are like anoraks slash nerds slash whatever you want to call it, that are like interested in like the IBs and everything else. It's like a fraction of percentage of like the LCBO's global profits. Like they literally don't care
We're
because
all right here right now.
why would they care? Like we see what happens with the releases where they just drop them with no fanfare. Like they don't even bother to send emails or put it in like the vintages thing because they don't care. Like to them, it's like a drop in the bucket compared to their wine and their uptick in craft beer sales and everything else.
And they move in a day because we all see it and it gets posted and they're gone.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, they're, making money hand over fist by selling crates of things grouse because that's where the money's at.
Yeah. You're not wrong, Colin. And it's too bad we don't have something at that government run business.
Which is why you have guys at Michael's level who are in Ontario, but they have to go through Alberta in order to get their product here.
Right? 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, which we very much appreciate.
It's
I don't want to comment on that because if I will comment on that, it's going to be only swearing. And and first of all, as a consumer, I'm not talking even about the to be a professional, to be agent, distributor, bottler, and so on, but as the consumer. So it means that my own elected by me government absolutely don't care about me because it's a part of the government. It's a part of huge government business, so but they don't care. They don't care about me as the same way that they don't care about potholes on the Toronto streets or everyday stopping of TTC, I mean subway or whatever. It's the same just the same pattern. Just they don't care. They exist in a parallel universe,
I think that feeds into what Colin said. There's such a small percentage of us that exist that it's not worth their while.
Yeah, but still, if we are minority, but we're still visible minority. I'm sorry.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah. And when they're talking about visible minorities, what's the freaking difference about it?
When you look at the amount of sales volume that Alberta sends to Ontario, which is where majority of their sales, I mean, there's absolutely a market there.
There's an argument to be made there, right? Like,
absolutely.
Ontario's missing out on
millions of dollars of tax.
I guess what I'm saying is that like compared to like the amount that people are just spending on like wine and the vintages selection or whatever, it's like even with all the sales from Alberta, it's like a drop in the bucket. Like yes, whiskey's like it's like a higher value item. So there's people that are ordering like
Colin, but if we're making the argument not to the LCBO, we don't want to make this argument to the LCBO, that'll fall on deaf ears. We want to make the argument to the MPP and say like, hey, there's money being left on the table right now. And there's consumers, Ontarians, that are left catered to, right? And it's bars too, right? Like, you want to open a whiskey bar in Ontario, have fun. You're not going to get any selection.
But also, guys, don't forget about one big deal. It's not only you have to change the system drastically as a kind of to turn to the system to the consumer. You have to also get the lower the taxes. And that's going to be a big deal. That's going to be almost impossible topic because, okay, it's a simple question. If you have a chance to buy this bottle for $100 in Alberta, I'm not discussing how you're buying this. We don't know that.
That's okay.
But yeah, whatever. Yeah, we do. But doesn't matter. But how much is gonna cost you in Ontario? 200. So what you gonna choose?
And that's where the volume problem comes into play, right? With the IBs, they are, whatever single casks, so they have a couple hundred bottles per run. The tax amount for the LCBO to import them just isn't. It presses it out of the market.
I think you do what the gas stations do and you show exactly how many dollars is going to tax when you buy the bottles. Same as when you're at the pump and you're filling up and they're like, hey, this much of your money is going to tax. That way it kind of wakes everybody up to the idea of how much is actually being taxed versus what the actual cost of the whiskey is. And I think the market is much bigger than just us. It's just so many people in Ontario are unaware of what's actually available out there.
I mean, I think the issue though because like it's a sin tax is what it is. And I think the issue is that realistically, if you were to slash the tax on alcohol, like the LCBO is one of the province's main source of tax revenue. If you're going to slash the tax on alcohol, well then you're going to raise personal income taxes. Well, what government is going to do that? It's like political suicide.
Nobody wants to own that. Absolutely.
Certainly Doug Ford is not going to be like, yeah, let's make alcohol cheaper so we can raise your personal income taxes to pay for the healthcare that we're already underfunding. Like
Mr. Buckethead.
It's a non-starter. And so I think the reality is that it would be great to have a change, but like the kind of realistic nature of the situation is like the LCBO is almost too big to fail. Like almost the best case scenario, even if we got privatized liquor stores, they could tailor selection. But I think the idea that we would like cut the duties and taxes on alcohol like in half and make it a comparable price to Alberta is a bit of a pipe dream. So I think even if we saw the LCBO dismantled and private liquor stores, it would still be the same tax rate or a very similar tax rate, and the bottles would cost the same. We just might have a better selection.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
argument you would have to make is about competing with other provinces.
Yeah, but again, like the amount of money that they're going to get from the whiskey enthusiasts in Ontario in the like grand billions of dollars of Ontario's budget is like nothing. Like I wish it was different, but I think the pragmatic person in me is just like this, like it's not going to change.
Well,
So
and
we
the thing
should
is,
just
do you think they want to do a side by side to say? I mean, I don't think anybody in the right mind, when you're talking about the Alberta stores, are not going to put their money out there and say, hey, look at how much money we're selling to Ontario. Like, even if the Ontario government was willing to say like, hey, we'll bring all this in even at a fraction of the price, or we'll reduce the taxes on X product that is a small batch run or whatever. Alberta's not going to give those numbers up. They don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, like as you say, like getting the actual hard data on what is technically illegal, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, is not going to be super easy to present a case, unfortunately.
There's no way they'll ever secure it because Alberta, the independent stores will never give that information up. There's no way.
Well, if you're looking at the amount of volume that the Alberta stores do, would that not make a case for Ontario?
I guess what I'm saying is like we perceive that there's a lot of volume, but that again compared to like the number of bottles that the or let's say the number of bottles of like $20 red wine that the LCBO sells in a week, even with all of the whiskey enthusiasts in Ontario buying whatever from BSW, craft sellers, whatever, it's a drop in the bucket because if you sell 15,000 bottles of red wine at $20 a bottle per week, you're still going to make more than like 100 people in Ontario buying a $200 IB from out west. It's just, and especially since you go through whiskey more slowly, and a lot of people don't have several hundred bottles in their collection. It's just, to us, it seems like it's such a big thing. Like it seems like this is money that's on the table, but I guess what I'm trying to get across is that at the end of the day, it is kind of a drop in the bucket in their budget. And I don't know that the money is going to be the argument that sells it, especially with conservative MP or MPPs in power where, they're maybe a little more friendly to the idea of reducing taxes and levies and like opening things up. But at the end of the day, they still have to fund the government, and by slashing the amount of money that the government's making, that's got to be made up somewhere, unfortunately.
And our government
actually
infrastructure
like-
funded.
Look, alcohol is a luxury good. I don't mind it being taxed through the roof, like tobacco and so on, right? That by all means, and it puts a toll on the healthcare system too. So I'm all for alcohol being taxed. My issue is really on the selection side, and in the letter that I'm drafting, all the recommendations that I'm making are about improving selection and preventing the LCBO from, like, you want to bring something in, they have to take a bottle for quality control, and they have to like analyze the hell out of it for months, and you can't
Regardless of if it's from a company that they already do business with.
even if it's like a Lefroy, right? It makes no sense. So that's where I'm suggesting things like moving from SKU base to distillery base, so that if it's a distillery that's already been approved and that's already on Ontario shelves, you can bypass that whole process.
Trust their homebred QC and go ahead. Yeah.
I don't mind paying a little bit extra as long as we can have access to it, at the same price as the other Lefroy's or whatever, I don't mind paying a bit of a premium on alcohol. I realize this is a luxury good,
But Simon, it's gonna be too much of a difference of the prices. Because LCBO markup is very big compared to Alberta. So
I've heard too,
it's
and I've heard agents say like we don't even make money when we go through the LCBO.
exactly.
We make money when we go through Alberta. But
Yeah, they're just trying to please a portion of the crowd at that point, right?
yeah, they're making pennies on the dollar when they're going through the LCBO. But it just
so far what we can promise, we can promise that we're gonna try to supply at least Alberta with the good bottles.
Yeah.
That's what we can promise.
Awesome.
Right, Mike? Right, Jay?
All right,
Yeah,
let's cut. I'm gonna cut the recording there.